Okay, I wasn't going to make this video, but I decided that I was going to move on to doing videos at the end of every 2 months, but there's a couple of things I want to address at the sort of start of September 1915. Particularly the crisis in the Central Powers Command, where a series of individual problems came up all at the same time, and that was covered in the last video. Now we'll go through them all. We got the Italian front. The Italians had made quite a break there. They didn't capture that hex there, but they had a massively overextended front which was vulnerable to attack from the flanks. So they basically abandoned that hex and fall back to a more defensible position. Now the Germans were responding to that breakthrough by sending the Alpine Corps, which is here, to the front to help the Italians. But what's going to happen with that is that's going to end up being moved back into central Germany to act as a strategic reserve for the entire war, basically, on the German side. So if we get a crisis, we've got a unit that we can deploy fairly rapidly. The second problem was the Russian breakthrough on the Galician front here, which is still causing a little bit of a problem because it's forced the Austro-Hungarian German line back quite a bit. Now, there's a couple of mitigating factors that means this isn't going to be a big problem. For a start, you're getting very close to the Vistula, which is it's a major river, which is a highly defensible position. Admittedly, the Germans wouldn't want to fall back to that line, but they could do. Another thing which is far more important is the Russians are getting very close to their shaken morale, demoralisation level. Now, that means they're almost certainly going to stop most of the offensive activity along the front. To avoid that, they want to try and get into 1916 without being in a shaken situation. The shaken morale has unpleasant sort of effects on your military capability, what you can do, and it even affects things like supply and replacement personnel. So you don't want that happening. The other area was the Allied breakthrough on the Suez. Now that's nowhere near as bad as I thought, because the Suez is under special Ottoman Front logistics rules, which make it very difficult to project military power forward. You've got rail lines which act as at the end of a point of communication, and then you can cast your supply to HQs, and then from HQs to individual units. But that's severely restricted, and because the British haven't got any rail engineers, they're not going to be able to, even if they recapture these rail hexes here, which the Turks own, all the way back to the border here, they can't actually extend the rail net. So in reality, they're probably only going to be able to advance about that far anyway. So that's reduced that as a problem as well. In terms of the rest of the front, while we're down here, have a look at the Caucasus. It's pretty static still, and the Mesopotamia Front, which is also fairly static, but the heat is going to go in a bit. Well, it's going to go at the end of this particular turn, so that means now heat and flood have gone. This front should open up. In terms of the Eastern Front, the Russians have been putting a lot of pressure on the Central Powers, but as I say, that's going to stop because they can't afford to take many more demoralisation points. The Germans and Russians have swapped a few the non-entrenched X's here around sort of East Prussia, and there's been this breakthrough which I've discussed here, which is not as important as we think. In terms of the Western Front, there's not a lot of activity, just a hell of a lot of sort of fighting around Flanders, etc. as usual, but no breakthroughs. It's just a war of attrition in the West. The front south of Flanders, etc., is static, and there's nothing going on. As I mentioned, both sides are looking at building strategic reserves. The Russians are starting a strategic reserve there at Baliastok, and the French have also got one near Paris. Okay, and the other front worth mentioning is Gallipoli, where nothing's happening. It's just such a bad area to attack, and it's such a narrow front. Okay, the next video I'm going to do is I'm going to cover logistics on the Ottoman fronts.